In this video, guys, we're going to look at 6 ways to make money trading if you work full time. Stay tuned. Hey traders, warm welcome to you. Alright, so many traders think that you're working full time, you've got to quit your job to go into a full-time trader. You know, I don't think that that's a great idea in the majority of cases. The pressure from having to make your monthly outgoing commitments from trading is a lot. And it's very, very challenging to go straight into that deep end. Listen, if you're early in your 20s or whatever, you haven't got that many commitments, maybe it's a different ball game and a different thing to consider. But if you're early on in your career, let's say you're kind of late teens, early 20s, then you know it's worth just sticking out a job and doing something, or at least doing some education if you're on the path of higher education, or getting some qualifications or an apprenticeship or whatever you're doing. It's worth sticking that out so that you've at least got that before you kind of go into foray in trading. Trading's challenging, guys. There's no way to sugarcoat it, and the chances of it working immediately for you are slim. And so, you know, if you're going to do something like that, you've got to have many years of runway. I know a guy who he managed to do it. He was working very successfully, he had a great job, very high paid. He quit that and he went into trading, and he did well in trading. But the reason he could do well is because I think he was reasonably wealthy already. He had plenty of years of buffer. I think his wife as well had a good salary. So it wasn't really that, okay, they were probably had a downgrade in lifestyle from that income not being there anymore. However, he could do it without having the pressure of having to make the money. Okay, and he had plenty of years to do it in the bank account. It was fine. Now, ultimately, he actually decided that, you know what, I'm doing okay in trading, but the company just offered him so much money to come back that he said, listen, I'll come back to trading later, and that's fair enough. But I think for most people, if you're quitting your job and you're going to trading, it's challenging, guys, and I would never recommend that. I'd always say, listen, find a way of being able to do it without making that leap, just going for it, because it's challenging, it's tricky. Anyway, enough about that. Let's see how we can potentially do it if you've got a job and working full time. So first thing is to plan your trades at key times and enter orders. So this is some swing trading, maybe multiple days, something like that, or even a day trading. You can plan your orders so you've always got some time you can dedicate to trading. And if you like to trade, you'll find the time to dedicate to do this. You need an hour or 2 hours. Look for your charts, decide on your setups, do everything that a normal trader would do, have your strategies, setups, triggers, etc., and work out what markets you're interested in and then what levels. And so you could see what levels, and then place your orders in, your stops, your limits, your if touched, all this kind of stuff, orders around that, and then just see what happens at the end of the day. You can also, if you can check in at certain parts of the day, so you can check in the morning, lunchtime, the evening, then you can check in and see if some of the intraday pattern has done something you like, and then place your order based on that. So you can kind of go narrow your time frame or widen your time frame. And I know a lot of guys who do that, and they do it reasonably well. You know, they've got a business and they kind of work full time, if you like, but they dedicate time very specifically to market research and putting orders and trades in, and that works okay for them, because yes, they don't trade actively, but they kind of pick their spots. Sometimes they're not in the markets for a couple of months, then they're very active, and so they wait until obviously it goes in line with their business commitments and how busy they are. But there's also a thing of, hey, well, if there's a setup, I can place my order in, leave it, as long as my risk is capped, I've got my stop loss in, then that works well. So that's something to consider. Number 2 is focus on the markets when you're not at work. So if you like to intraday trade, this is always the challenge I see, is that people are like, okay, well, I've got a full-time job, but I would like to day trade. How can I do it? Well, this is challenging, of course, but don't forget the markets are 24/5, guys. If you are working in the morning until the evening, or until the late afternoon, let's say you're back at kind of UK time 7 o'clock, you've still got 2 hours of US session, and especially at the moment, for example, the last 2 hours are very, very volatile, and loads of opportunity there. So you can do that. Or maybe you can get up extra early and trade kind of a pre-market before the open, or maybe you can adjust your time and go a little bit late to the office and trade 8 till 9. There's ways of potentially doing it. And don't forget, you've got the evening as well, the Hang Seng in the middle of the night. If you're in the UK, depending on where you are in the world, this is all going to depend on where you are and what you're looking at. You've got Hang Seng, you've got Nikkei, you've got all these different things that are able to trade if you can allocate some time to doing it. So adjusting on markets when you're not at work is not a bad way of doing it. Also, some people don't always work Monday to Friday. maybe you work and have a day off in the week so you can focus on that day off. But this is why it's so key, guys, of not just going into the deep end, because you know, if you work even trading once a week, it's going to be challenging to get those hours in, to get the experience up, to feel confident enough to pull the trigger. But it's all good experience and it all helps. You know, it's better than nothing, isn't it? Right. Number 3, trade options to limit your risk. So options are a good way, because the problem I think people have is they place a trade and they get annoyed when they get stopped out, so they don't place a stop, or they place a stop too wide because they can't monitor it, and there's double frustration there. I wish I could trade all the time. I keep getting stopped out. Option's not a bad thing to do, because ultimately it can only go to 0 and expire at 0. It can go to 0 before expiring, come back off 0. So you could buy a call option, say in S&P 500, it goes down, S&P 500 goes down, the option is worthless, but if you've got an expiry a month in the future, then it could still bounce and come back up. So you've still got some exposure to the market, and that way it never stops you out. It can only close at 0. Your risk is the price of the option you paid. That's if you're buying options. Obviously, I don't think selling options is a great idea if you can't manage it and keep an eye on it, because selling options, you've got unlimited risk. All right, adjust your working hours. Sounds crazy, but you know, obviously if you're running a business, maybe you've got a bit more flexibility of how you can do that, and say to your staff, say, listen, I'm going to come in on these hours, or I'm going to trade. You have to tell them you're trading, do whatever you want. You say, well, I'm going to go home a little bit earlier on these days, or come in a little later on these days, and adjust it. Or if you're working for a company, there's no harm in saying to your boss and saying, hey, listen, can I adjust my working hours? Can I come in an hour later on a Wednesday and Friday, and I'll stay an hour later as well? It's no harm in asking, because then it might give you just enough time to be able to trade the open on days that you can consider are active. Or can I take a longer lunch, please, on a Thursday? Or can I take a longer lunch on these days because it's non-farm payrolls and I want to see how it is and I want to watch the market? So, you know, don't rule that out. Take a sabbatical. I know somebody who took a sabbatical from a company that hadn't had sabbaticals before. He said, listen, I want to take 3 months off. Can I take 3 months off? And they were like, yep, no problem. All we've got to do is fill out this documentation, blah, blah, blah. It's no problem, we'll work it out for you. Valuable asset, they could hand over other tasks and stuff to other team members, take 3 months off. That might be a consideration. Maybe take some time off and go into trading and see how you get on for 3 months. You might hate it full time. You might be like, this is crazy, I don't like it. But it's something that you can perhaps do, and it gives you a little bit of a flavour of what it's like to have your routine every day trading. The final thing is trade at work. Put a star by this, because that's going to depend on what you're doing, obviously. You know, if you're doing something where it's critical that you've got your attention there, definitely not. Going to the point, other one of, if you've got people coming in all the time and speaking to you and you've got to deal with them, again, probably not. But if you're in maybe a job where you have got time that you know is doing nothing, where you can allocate it to this, maybe you've got a task to do, a document to write, a report to write, and you've got a certain amount of time to do that, then of course you could get the report done and you've still got a little bit of time left. Maybe you can allocate that to trading at that point, or at least watching the markets and getting a feel for how the markets go. So there guys, there's 6 ways to make money trading if you work full time. Some different ways and options for you there, as opposed to just going, right, I quit, I'm going to trade full time, and then going, oh, I've got to make my monthly money right away and my savings aren't going to last very long if I don't. So this might be a good interim thing to kind of get a bit more of a feel and get rid of the flow of the market and get more engaged with the market. All right, guys, take care. Bye-bye.